Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in today. It is such a pleasure to be back in your ears. I'm Tom.
And I am Maria. Hello, everyone. It feels really good to be here again, Tom.
It does, doesn't it? There is something special about just sitting down, putting the headphones on, and having a real deep conversation. And today, Ria, we have a topic that I think is going to touch a lot of hearts. It is something we get asked about almost every single day.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is actually the number one struggle for most of our listeners. It isn't grammar, it isn't vocabulary, it isn't even pronunciation. It is that invisible wall that stops you from speaking even when you know the words.
Exactly. Today, we are talking about confidence, unstoppable confidence. That feeling where you can walk into a room or jump onto a Zoom call and speak English without your heart racing, without your palms sweating, and without that little voice in your head saying you're going to make a mistake.
Just hearing you say that makes me take a deep breath, because I remember that feeling of fear so vividly. You know, Tom, a lot of people think that because I speak fluently now, I never struggled, but that is so far from the truth.
I think that's a really important place to start. Let's debunk the myth right now. Confidence is not something you're born with, right? It isn't a gene.
Not at all. I was actually a very shy child, and when I started learning English seriously, I was terrified. I remember this one specific time. I must have been maybe 20 years old. I was traveling and I went into a coffee shop. I had rehearsed my order in my head about 50 times. I wanted a vanilla latte with oat milk. I said it over and over in my mind.
I do that too, the mental rehearsal. It's like preparing for a battle just to get a coffee.
Exactly. It felt like a battle. So I get to the front of the line, and the barista looks at me. She had really intense eyes, and she just said, "What can I get for you?" And I froze completely. My mind went blank. The sentence, "I would like a vanilla latte," just vanished. I ended up pointing at a muffin and mungling, "That one." I didn't even want a muffin, Tom. I hate muffins.
Oh, Ria, that is both hilarious and heartbreaking. But I think every single person listening right now has a muffin story, a moment where the pressure just erased their memory. Why do you think that happens? Why does English, or any second language, have this power to make intelligent adults feel like helpless children?
That's such a deep question. I think it's because language is identity. When we speak our native language, we are funny, we're smart, we're articulate, we can express nuance. But when we switch to English, suddenly we feel limited. We feel like a simpler, clumsier version of ourselves. And that gap between who we are and who we can express, that is where the insecurity lives.
That's profound. It's the gap between your soul and your tongue. You know you have this complex thought, but you only have simple tools to build it. But here's the thing about building unstoppable confidence. It doesn't come from closing that gap immediately. It comes from being okay with the gap.
Can you explain that a bit more? Being okay with the gap?
Sure. So many learners think, I will be confident when my English is perfect. They think confidence is a reward you get at the finish line, but that's a trap because there is no finish line. I make mistakes in English, and it's my first language. If you wait for perfection, you'll be waiting forever. Confidence is actually the decision to speak while you're imperfect.
I love that. Confidence is a decision, not a result. It's deciding that my message is more important than my mistakes.
Precisely. Connection over perfection. That's the mantra we always use. Think about it, Ria. When you talk to a non-native speaker of your own language, do you judge them when they make a mistake?
Never, honestly, never. I actually admire them. I think, wow, this person is brave enough to learn my language. I'm usually just trying to understand what they mean. I'm rooting for them.
Exactly. And that's the biggest secret to confidence. The world is not against you. Most people are rooting for you. The judgment isn't coming from the listener. The judgment is coming from inside your own head.
It's the spotlight effect, isn't it? We think everyone is analyzing our grammar, looking for errors with a magnifying glass. But in reality, people are usually thinking about themselves or their lunch, or they're just happy to be having a conversation.
Right, so how do we move from knowing this logically to feeling it emotionally? Because I can tell a student, don't worry, but their body is still reacting with fear. How do we physically build that confidence?
For me, it started with small risks. Micro-bravery, I call it.
Micro-bravery. I like that term. Give me an example.
Okay, so after the muffin incident, I decided I needed to get over this fear. But I couldn't just go give a speech, that was too big. So I started going to stores and just asking where things were, even if I knew where they were. I would walk into a supermarket, find the milk, stand right in front of the milk, and then go find an employee and ask, "Excuse me, could you tell me where the milk is?"
Wait, really? You asked for things you already found? That is brilliant.
Yes, because the stakes were zero. I knew the answer. I wasn't actually looking for information. I was hunting for interaction. I just needed to practice the feeling of approaching a stranger and speaking English. And since I knew where the milk was, if I didn't understand their answer, it didn't matter.
That is actually a genius strategy. You separated the act of speaking from the consequence of not understanding. You turned it into a game.
It was a game, and every time I did it and the world didn't end and the person didn't laugh at me, my brain got a little piece of evidence. Syria, you are safe. And that is how you build confidence. You stack up these little pieces of evidence that you are safe.
That is the psychological mechanism right there. You are retraining your amygdala, the fear center of your brain. You are teaching it that speaking English is not a tiger attacking you. It's just a noise coming out of your mouth.
Tom, tell me about a time you lost your confidence, because you always seem so composed.
Oh, I have plenty. I remember when I was trying to learn French. I was living in Paris for a few months. I felt pretty good about myself. I went to a dinner party and I wanted to tell a story about how I baked a cake for my mother. But instead of saying gâteau for cake, I said a word that sounds very similar but means, well, let's just say it refers to a very specific part of a cat's anatomy.
Oh, no.
Yes, the whole table went silent, dead silent. And then, all at once, 8 French people exploded into laughter, tears streaming down their faces. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. I turned bright red, I felt hot, I felt stupid.
That is the nightmare scenario. So what did you do?
Well, for about 10 seconds, I suffered. But then I looked at them laughing, and I realized something. They weren't laughing at me with malice. They were enjoying the moment. It was funny. So I forced myself to laugh too. I just started laughing. And the moment I laughed at myself, the tension vanished. It became a bonding moment. We all joked about it for the rest of the night.
That is a superpower, isn't it? The ability to laugh at yourself?
It is the ultimate shield. If you can laugh at your mistakes, nobody can hurt you with them. You take the weapon out of their hands. If you own your clumsiness, you become invincible, unstoppable.
I think that links back to what we said earlier about perfection. When you try to be perfect, you're fragile, like glass. One little chip and you're broken. But when you're willing to be messy and funny, you're like water. You just flow around the obstacles.
I love that image. Be like water. But Ria, what about the listeners who are saying, okay, that's great for casual conversation, but I have to speak English at work. I have to present data to my boss. I can't joke about cat anatomy in a board meeting.
That is a very fair point. Professional confidence is a different beast. The pressure is higher because money and careers are involved. But the principle of preparation changes here. In a professional setting, confidence comes from preparation, but not the kind of preparation people usually do.
What do you mean? Most people prepare by memorizing a script.
Right. And that's the worst thing you can do. Because if you memorize a script and someone interrupts you with a question, you lose your place and panic. The script is a crutch. Real professional confidence comes from knowing your subject matter, not your sentences.
Knowing your subject, not your sentences. Unpack that for us.
If you're presenting sales figures, focus on the numbers and the story those numbers tell. If you know that sales are up 20%, hold on to that fact. If you stumble over the grammar while saying it, the fact remains true. Your boss cares about the 20%, not whether you use the present perfect continuous tense correctly.
That is so true. In business, value is king. If you communicate value, people will forgive the delivery. I think we often overestimate how much native speakers care about grammar in meetings. We just want the information.
And there is another trick for meetings. It is the power of the pause.
The pause. Tell us about that.
When we're nervous, we speed up. We try to rush through the English to get it over with. And when we rush, we make mistakes and we run out of breath, which makes us more nervous. It is a spiral. The most confident thing you can do is stop, take a breath, look at the person, and then speak slowly.
Silence is very loud. It projects authority. If you are comfortable enough to sit in silence for 2 seconds while you gather your thoughts, people actually listen more closely. They think, oh, she's thinking about something important.
Exactly. Silence isn't empty space. It is active space, and it gives your brain a chance to catch up. Tom, there's also a physical aspect to this. We've been talking about mindset, but what about the body?
Huge. The mind-body connection. If you sit hunched over, arms crossed, looking down, you're telling your brain, I'm in danger. You're making yourself small.
Yes. Before I have a difficult call or a recording, I do a power pose. It sounds silly, but I stand up, feet wide apart, hands on my hips, chin up, like Wonder Woman. I hold it for 2 minutes.
The Wonder Woman pose. There's actual science behind that. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and raises testosterone, the dominance hormone. You're hacking your own biology.
It really works. You can't feel timid when you're standing like a superhero. And I also focus on my voice, not the words, but the volume. When we lack confidence, we whisper, we mumble, we try to hide our voice. But if you force yourself to speak just 10% louder than you think is necessary, something shifts.
It's like you're claiming your space in the room. I'm here. I have a voice. I deserve to be heard.
I deserve to be heard. That's the core belief, isn't it? A lot of English learners feel like second-class citizens because of their accent or their vocabulary. They feel like they don't deserve the airtime.
And that's the most tragic thing, because diversity of voice is what makes communication interesting. Your accent is not a defect, Ria. Your accent is your history. It's the map of where you've been. It adds flavor to the conversation.
I used to hate my accent. I wanted to sound exactly like you, Tom. British, proper, polished. But then I realized, even if I sound like a native speaker, I'll never be British. That's not my story. My story is that I'm a woman who worked incredibly hard to learn this language. My accent is the trophy of that hard work.
That is beautiful. Your accent is a trophy. I hope everyone listening writes that down. Wear it with pride.
So we've discussed mindset, we've discussed the body, we've discussed handling mistakes. But how do we maintain this? Because confidence fluctuates, doesn't it? Some days I feel great, some days I feel like I can't speak a word.
It absolutely fluctuates. It's not a constant state. It's like the weather. You can't control the weather, but you can build a strong house. The house is your daily habit. You need to keep showing up even on the bad days.
Consistency over intensity.
Right. If you have a bad day where you forget a word or feel awkward, don't retreat. Don't hide for a week. The tendency is to say, oh, that was painful. I'm going to avoid English for a while. That's the worst thing you can do. You have to get back on the horse immediately.
It helps to have a safe space for those bad days, a community or a friend or a tutor who you know won't judge you. That's why we created our community, right? To give people a place where it's okay to be messy.
Yes, you need a laboratory where you can experiment without things exploding. But Ria, there's one more element to unstoppable confidence that we haven't touched on yet, and that's listening.
Listening? But we're talking about speaking confidence.
I know. But think about the best conversationalists you know. Are they the ones who talk nonstop, or are they the ones who make you feel heard?
The ones who make me feel heard, definitely.
When you're nervous about your own English, you tend to obsess over what you're going to say next. You stop listening to the other person because you're too busy scripting your next line. This actually kills your confidence because you disconnect from the reality of the conversation. You get lost in your head.
Oh, wow, that's so true. When I'm nervous, I'm not really in the room. I'm in my head.
Exactly. So, paradoxically, to build speaking confidence, you should focus intensely on the other person. Listen to their words, watch their face, be curious about them. If you pour 100% of your attention onto them, you have no attention left to worry about yourself.
That is such a relief. It takes the pressure off me. I don't have to be the star of the show. I just have to be a good witness to their story.
Yes, and when you really listen, your brain naturally picks up the rhythm of their speech. You will find yourself answering more automatically because you are in the flow, rather than trying to construct a sentence from scratch.
It is like dancing. If you're looking at your own feet, you're going to trip. If you look at your partner and feel the music, you just move.
Perfect analogy. We're dancing with words, and sometimes you step on toes, and that's okay. You just say, oops, and keep dancing. You don't run off the dance floor.
I want to go back to the idea of the English persona. Some people tell me they feel like a different person in English. Is that good or bad for confidence?
I think it's a tool. We all wear masks or play roles in different parts of our lives. I'm a different Tom when I'm with my grandmother than when I'm with my best friends at a pub. Creating an English persona can be very liberating. You can decide that English Rhea is slightly more outgoing, slightly louder, slightly more adventurous than native language Rhea.
I actually do that. English Rhea is a bit more direct. In my culture, we're very indirect and polite. But English is a very direct language. So when I switch to English, I put on this invisible coat of directness. It helps me say things I wouldn't normally say.
It's almost like acting, and acting is fun. If you treat it like a role you're playing, it gives you a layer of protection. If someone rejects what you say, they're rejecting the role, not you deep down.
So let's summarize a little bit for our listeners because we have covered a lot of ground.
Right, the decision to accept imperfection.
Then we talked about micro-bravery, doing small, scary things like asking where the milk is, just to prove to your brain that you are safe.
We discussed the physical side, posture, volume, the Wonder Woman pose, taking up space.
And the importance of laughing at yourself, being the first one to laugh so the fear loses its power.
And finally, shifting the focus from yourself to the other person, listening deeply to get out of your own head.
It sounds like a lot of work, Tom.
It is work. I won't lie to you. It's internal work. Building muscles takes time at the gym. Building confidence takes time in the world. But it's the most rewarding work you will ever do. Because when you have confidence in English, the whole world opens up.
It really does. It's not just about words, it's about freedom. The freedom to travel, to work anywhere, to make friends from cultures you never dreamed you'd connect with.
I want to ask you, Rhea, for the listener sitting there right now, maybe on the bus or washing dishes, who's thinking, this sounds nice, but I'm just too shy. I can't do it. What do you say to them?
I would say, I see you. I was you. I know that tight feeling in your chest. I know the frustration of having a rich inner world and a limited outer voice. But I also know that you are stronger than you think. You have already done the hard part. You've learned the grammar, the vocabulary, you've done the studying. Now you just need to give yourself permission to use it.
Give yourself permission.
Yes. Permission to be imperfect, permission to be slow, permission to have an accent. The world is waiting to hear what you have to say, not the perfect version of you, the real version of you.
That is incredibly powerful. The world doesn't need more textbooks. It needs more voices. Your voice.
And you know, Tom, one practical thing I would add for that shy listener, record yourself.
Oh, video journaling?
Yes, grab your phone, turn on the camera, and just talk for 1 minute about your day. No one else has to see it, just you. Watch it back. You'll be surprised. You usually sound better than you think you do. And seeing yourself speaking English helps bridge that identity gap we talked about. You look at the screen and think, hey, that person's speaking English. That person is me.
That's a fantastic, actionable tip. Start with an audience of one, yourself, then an audience of two, maybe a trusted friend, then expand.
Step by step. You don't climb Everest in a single jump.
So, as we wrap up this episode, I want to challenge everyone listening. We always like to leave you with a challenge.
Yes, the weekly challenge. What is it this time?
This week, I want you to make one mistake on purpose.
On purpose? That sounds terrifying.
I want you to go into a conversation or a store or a comment section online, and I want you to speak without checking your grammar first. Just let it fly. If you make a mistake, I want you to pause, smile, maybe correct it if you want, or just move on. But your goal is to survive the mistake.
I love that. The goal isn't to be correct. The goal is to survive the error.
And observe how people react. I guarantee you, 99% of the time, they won't even blink. And that realization will give you more confidence than 1,000 grammar drills.
I am going to do it too. I am going to be messy this week.
Me too. I'll probably mess up an idiom or something. It keeps us humble.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Tom. I feel energized. I hope our listeners do too.
I always love chatting with you, Ria. And to our listeners, remember, you are doing something amazing. Learning a language is one of the bravest things a human being can do. Be proud of that.
Be proud, be brave, and keep speaking.
We will catch you in the next episode of Real English Voices. Until then, take care of yourselves and keep practicing.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Wait, Tom, before we actually cut the feed, can I add one tiny thing that just popped into my head?
Of course, we're still rolling. Go ahead.
I just remembered something about the word confidence itself. It comes from the Latin word fidere, which means to trust.
I didn't know that. Fidere, like fidelity.
Yes, so confidence literally means with trust. It doesn't mean with skill or perfection. It means trusting yourself, trusting that you can handle whatever happens in the conversation.
That is the perfect footnote to end on. It's an act of trust, trusting yourself and trusting the listener.
Exactly. Okay, now I am really done.
A beautiful addition. Thanks, Ria.
Bye.
Goodbye. If the bridge gets you to the other side, it is a good bridge. I like that. We are collecting so many good metaphors today.
We are. But Tom, I want to touch on something a bit sensitive. What about accent discrimination? Because we can tell people to be confident, but the reality is sometimes people are judged for their accents. It happens.
It does happen. We can't pretend it doesn't. There are people who are narrow-minded.
So how do you maintain confidence when you meet someone like that? Someone who makes a face when you speak or pretends not to understand you?
That is a tough situation. It hurts. But you have to realize that their reaction is about their limitation, not yours. If someone cannot understand a sentence because of a slight accent, they are a poor listener. They lack the skill of global communication.
So you flip the script. It is not my failure to speak, it is their failure to listen.
In a way, yes. You're the one being brave, stepping out of your comfort zone, using a second or third language. They're the ones staying in their tiny, comfortable bubble. Who is the impressive one in that scenario?
That is really empowering. It reminds me of a quote. Do not make yourself small for people who refuse to grow.
Ooh, that hits hard.
So if someone is rude about your English, you don't shrink. You speak clearer. You hold your ground. You repeat yourself with dignity. I said, I would like the coffee, please. You don't apologize for your existence.
Never apologize for your existence. And never apologize for your English before you even start speaking. You know how some people start a conversation with, "Sorry, my English is bad."
I used to do that constantly. It was my opening line.
It's a terrible opening line because first, it sets a negative expectation. You're telling the person, expect me to fail. And second, it puts the other person in an awkward position where they have to comfort you. Oh, no, it's fine. It makes the conversation about your insecurity, not the topic.
It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I say my English is bad, I feel bad, and then I speak badly.
Exactly. Instead, try saying, I am still learning English, so please be patient if I need to rephrase something. Or just say nothing. Just speak. Let them figure out your level. Usually, they'll be impressed that you can speak at all.
It's about owning the narrative. I am a learner. That is a strong position. It implies growth. My English is bad implies a static negative state.
Words matter. The words we use to describe ourselves shape our reality. If you call yourself a struggling student, you will struggle. If you call yourself a developing communicator, you will communicate.
I love developing communicator. It sounds professional and active.
Ria, do you have any specific rituals you do before a big English event, like a job interview?
Aside from the Wonder Woman pose, yes, I listen to music in English.
Music? What kind?
Usually something with a lot of lyrics, like hip-hop or fast pop, not because I want to learn the slang, but because it gets my brain into the rhythm of English. English has a specific beat, a cadence. It's stress-timed. My native language is syllable-timed. It's a different beat.
That's a great point. It's like tuning an instrument before you play.
Yes, if I listen to Eminem or Taylor Swift for 10 minutes, my brain switches frequency. I start thinking in that rhythm. So when I open my mouth, the English flows out on that beat. It feels less clunky.
I do something similar with podcasts. I shadow them. I listen and repeat exactly what they say almost at the same time. It warms up the muscles of the mouth. Because speaking English requires different facial muscles than speaking Japanese or Spanish or Russian.
It is a workout. My jaw used to ache after an hour of English class.
That means you were doing it right. You were waking up those dormant muscles. So warming up is crucial. You wouldn't run a marathon without stretching. Don't go into a high-stakes meeting with a cold mouth.
Talk to yourself in the shower. Talk to your dog. Just get the mouth moving.
Let's talk about vocabulary for a second. Another confidence killer is the fear of not finding the right word, the tip of the tongue syndrome.
The worst. You know the word, you can feel it, but it won't come out, and you just stand there saying,
So what is the strategy there? How do we handle the missing word with confidence?
Circumlocution. That's the fancy term, right? Describing the word you don't know with words you do know.
Exactly. It's the art of talking around the obstacle.
So if I forget the word for umbrella, I don't panic. I say, the thing you hold over your head when it rains.
Perfect. And you know what? That is actually better communication than freezing. It keeps the conversation flowing. Native speakers do this too. I forget words all the time. I say, the thingy, the whatchamacallit.
The thingy. I love that word. It is so useful.
But learners feel like if they don't use the precise academic word, they have failed. But real fluency is the ability to navigate around holes in your vocabulary. It is strategic flexibility.
Strategic flexibility. I am learning so much today, Tom. It is not about having a full dictionary in your head. It's about being MacGyver with the words you have.
MacGyver. There's a reference for the older listeners. For the younger ones, it's like Minecraft. You build with the blocks you have.
I like the Minecraft comparison. You can build amazing things with simple blocks.
We are nearing the end of this bonus segment, but I want to touch on one last thing, the role of curiosity.
Curiosity?
Yes, fear and curiosity cannot exist in the same space. If you're truly curious, you cannot be afraid.
Explain that.
If you approach English with a sense of wonder, I wonder how I can say this, I wonder what this person thinks, your brain is in discovery mode, not defense mode. Confidence often comes from just being interested.
That shifts the vibe completely. Instead of I have to perform, it's I get to explore.
I get to explore. That's the spirit of real English voices. We're all explorers here.
Tom, thank you for keeping the recording going. I think this part was just as important as the first part.
I think so too. It's the nitty-gritty stuff, the real stuff.
So, officially signing off now?
Officially. Go out there, be brave, make mistakes, be messy, be curious.
And remember, we are right here with you. You are not alone on this journey.
Take care, everyone.
Bye!